What up, TikTok? Hey, hope everybody's having a great Friday. Hey, don't let anything that's negative in your life dictate the rest of your life. Does that make sense? Hey, we all go through some hard times. We all go through some emotional stressors, maybe at work, maybe at home, whatever it may be. Don't let that dictate who you are and how you react to the rest of the things that life throws at you. Does that make sense? Like if you're feeling pissed off and angry all morning or all day, you're going to take that energy and you're going to present it to everybody else that surrounds you, your loved ones, your soldiers, whoever it may be. You're going to use that negative energy and it's just going to make everything worse. Try to be positive. Pick something positive in life that's going really well. Use that positive energy and let that dictate the rest of your day. We can harp on the negatives. We can harp on the bad things that are going on in life. It's not going to help us. It's not going to help us move forward. Stay strong, keep pushing, drive on. Happy Friday.
What's up, Trash Talkers? Hitting you up this morning with a special promo on how to dress when you are doing PT in civilians, but you want everybody to know you're an Army. This comes from the Buddy Beckwith fashion design of how to work out. So first, you can notice the RI panties. Not Ranger panties, but Ranger instructor panties. The green socks, the knee brace for the old guys. Don't forget the M frames. Now the shirt, don't wear the Trash Talk shirt while you're running. This is just for the promo. You want to put on like an 80-second shirt or like your favorite airborne shirt so everybody knows that you're a veteran. That's the most important thing. And you start with this stretch. Buddy Beckwith taught me this one. Ready to go.
So, I'm walking out of the gas station and my co-worker, who's an old MP, but we still claim him, and has engaged the man in conversation. Not much for conversation with strangers, but he's got the tab. So, as I walk by, I say airborne, and the man responds with, and I quote, "Hoorah." So, after I instructed my co-worker to slash every single tire before he put the car in gear, I looked for the biggest rock. As I crow hopped to throw it through his back window so he can stop posing as one of us, I actually wake up and realize that the man's ignorance had incapacitated me for a moment, and I was daydreaming. I mean, because in that moment you got two options. I chose the third option and said, "Incorrect. That's an incorrect response." And I kept walking. The man said nothing and he pulled away. So you tell me, what is it, a stolen valor thing? No Marine's gonna have an airborne tab, and no paratrooper's gonna say an hoorah. So you tell me, stolen valor?
Hey, y'all, I'm going to work. I left you a note on the refrigerator. I love y'all. I'm gonna go.
Hey, go get dressed. Get ready for school.
You're doing great. I was just tooling along. Shit! Bad guy! Stop!
Let me break it down Barney style.
What's up, sports fans? Are you looking for a job? Do you want to change in careers? Do you want to own your own business? I got the answer for you. This show is brought to you by FleetTex. FleetTex is partnering with veterans with mechanical or electronic experience. FleetTex specializes in on-site deployment of GPS tracking equipment and cameras for fleet vehicles across our nation. Check out what they do at www.fleettex.com. Apply today. Currently targeting veterans living in Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. Local work and travel opportunities may be available in other areas. FleetTex proudly supports our military, its service members, our veterans, and their families. Enjoy the show.
This is the Veteran Trash Talk Hour, hosted by Nick, Dave, Joe, and Buddy. Real warriors making fun of other real warriors. Try to not get triggered.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 100 of the Trash Talk Hour.
Boom.
Shout out to our sponsors, Fleet Tex. Go check them out at fleettex.com. And last but not least, 10th Mountain Whiskey. Go check them out at 10thwhiskey.com. Type in VTT and get a discount. Special guest today is Steve. He's got all kinds of awesome stuff going on, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. And today I'm joined by Nick, Buddy, and JC. What's up, everybody?
What's going on?
How are you?
What's going on, man? How's everybody doing today? This is number 100, bro.
Hey, just don't forget, tomorrow's September 11th.
Yeah, we got a big special with that. We can talk about it later, but let's say it now. But we got two guys that were in the Pentagon when they got hit by the plane.
Yeah.
And they're coming on and talking their stories. One of them tried to complete suicide. Thank God he didn't. You know him as the mental health warrior on VTT. So
Shout out to Clifford.
Bauman,
Yeah.
he's gonna come on and talk about, pulling bodies out of there and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be they asked us for it again. He asked us if we could help him get through the day and just put him on the show, and because he's realized how awesome it is to come out here and talk about it. So it's gonna help him get through the day. So it's gonna be pretty cool.
Spot on, man. That's good stuff. All right. Well, Buddy's favorite portion of the show. We're going to kickstart it with a quick conspiracy. I'm sure Buddy already has a pin out and a piece of paper so he can just tear it apart immediately. It's not like is that for your AAR? Are you doing the AAR today, Buddy? Or is that just for the conspiracy?
I have to keep up with whatever the hell, 25.
Whatever the hell I Googled, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make it very clear that I don't believe in 80% of these conspiracies that I talk about. I just Google them. And then I find someone, some of them are kind of interesting, like the one I'm about to talk about. All right. So let's get right into it. So today I'm going to talk about the Monkey Man of New Delhi. Okay.
The Monkey
So apparently,
Man.
yeah.
So look at your phone. This guy's legit. Dude.
It's legit. There's all kinds of articles about it. So I took a couple notes for Buddy. So between 2000 and 2001, this Monkey Man was supposedly terrorizing New Delhi. Okay. He's about 4 foot tall. He wore a helmet, had metal claws, and apparently 3 buttons on his chest. Okay, so maybe even a robot monkey. I don't know. 3 people died because of him. Okay, they jumped off of buildings when they were being chased by this Monkey Man, and people witnessed it. Apparently, thousands of others were attacked by this Monkey Man as well. A lot of victims had visible scars, scratches on their faces, arms and legs. It was all over the news. Okay, the police actually put out a bounty for this Monkey Man. All right, $1,000. Ruble or whatever they use over there, Rubin or what? Rupee. Yeah,
I thought you were cultured.
There were patrols. Yeah, I'm not cultured in India, but there were patrols that were going around in the city and everything, and it just became this big hype. It was in the newspaper. It was in the news. They never caught him, and it's still talked about today, 19 years later. So no clue, Bigfoot, maybe it was a monkey that was going there and attacking people. I don't know about the whole metal helmet and stuff, because monkey attacks do happen frequently in India, okay, if you research it. But the thing is, with the monkey attacks that do frequently happen, the monkeys are usually biting their victims. All these victims had scratches on their arms and on their face and everything. So it wasn't like a regular monkey. So I don't really know if there's any truth to this. Maybe it was hype. Maybe it was some dude dressed up in a, monkey suit wearing his fucking helmet and attacking people. Or it really was some crazy Monkey Man, Bigfoot style, Chupacabra.
The actual missing link.
Yeah. I don't know, Nick. I don't know. So, Steve.
Yes.
I'm going to let you go first, and you can give us your take. Is the Monkey Man real? Is this a bunch of bullshit? Or what was going on between 2000 and 2001 in New Delhi, India?
So I almost want to start off with a bit of a caveat.
Oh, big word.
Uh-oh.
Already.
Caveat.
Behoove everybody listen to this shit.
We are all listening.
Yeah.
So it's like a disclaimer, JC. So the caveat is essentially that 5 years ago, if we thought there'd be a Joe Rogan podcast about UFOs, we would have been yeah, okay. And if we thought we'd see videos. So as far as the conspiracy thing where I would draw a hard line years ago on this, I'm not going to do it, because it just seems that the more ridiculous things get, the more likely they are to become true. So I really don't.
I love that.
Right.
I like that. Okay.
So 3,500 police were mobilized in search of this. Right. So there had to be something going on. Flaming eyes, for some reason, seems reasonable to me. It's reported to have flaming eyes. Helmet seems like a good idea for terrorizing. So I think we have a higher order of intellect for this monkey assailant. And there were over 1,000 attacks reported. If it was 10 years ago, I would deny it outright because there'd be video. Someone would have caught it on the cell phone, but it's still in that video window. But I draw the line at the 3-button jacket. I can't. I do not believe. I would think he'd wear a sport coat, more of a 2-button with an athletic taper kind of thing, not a 3-button. It seems too formal for any.
And he's got to be able to jump like from building to building and stuff, right?
It would tear. I would imagine he was lat dominant, posterior chain dominant. It would tear. It just doesn't seem reasonable to me. So I'm going to give it like a 60-40 split. 60 yes, 40 no, solely because of the 3-button jacket part.
I think this was the best explanation ever. I really enjoyed that one. Okay.
Well, here's my question: What if the 3-button jacket was just misconstrued? Maybe it was a cardigan. You know what I mean? Some type of sweater situation.
What time of the year?
Then? A lot more movement. You know what I mean?
It's hot in India in some places.
You're a monkey.
I'm thinking it's a madras. I'm thinking it's a madras sport coat, and I would have gone with the 60-40 as well. But I got to be honest with you, I think I'm lowering it because of the roller skates. The roller skate part. Oh yeah.
I raised it for that.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see the roller skate portion.
I'm doing research, and it's the roller skates that that's tough, especially with monkey feet, right? I mean, roller skates, monkey feet. So I'm going to bring it. I agree. I think the sports coat, it's probably a 2-button, and I think it's probably madras. But the roller skates just seem to, I don't know, that hurts it for me. Have you
ever seen that video on YouTube? Joe Rogan showed it on his podcast where this little monkey on roller skates rolls up and tries to snatch up this baby. You look it up. It's like a thing.
Man? Was that the monkey man?
There's this little kid sitting on this ledge. Like, you can YouTube it right now if you want to. And this little monkey on roller skates comes fucking flying up, snatches the fucking kid, and tries to drag him away.
The monkey man.
No, not tall enough.
No. Evidence of
he wasn't tall enough. He didn't have a helmet.
No sport coat.
Yeah. So, Joe Rogan showed it on his podcast. It's pretty crazy.
When was that video taken? Because maybe the monkey man somehow he turned his sports coat into the cleaners. They lost it. His
what time of year was it?
At some point, and he just said, he was like, you know what, fuck it, I don't have a helmet, I don't have my jacket, I'm just gonna chill. And then finally he got that itch, and he was like, I gotta go fuck something else.
So you know what? Roller skates increase the likelihood for me because it just shows he was responsible. If you're going to be wearing roller skates, you're going to accompany that with a helmet. Well, and to answer your cardigan, to answer the cardigan question, I'd want to know what time of year if it was, and I would expect it would
be any time of the year in India cardigan weather. Maybe it
was definitely so. Steve, according to reports, it was obviously it's pretty hot over there, and all the victims that were attacked, a lot of them were on their roofs sleeping. Okay, because they would turn off the power at night, so they didn't have AC in their houses, so now they're sleeping on the roofs. You know, like we've obviously seen in Iraq, wherever. So they were attacked on the roofs because it was super hot. So I don't know about the jacket. Maybe that would have been too hot for him because they say he had all kinds of fur and like big. I mean, you look at the picture that we posted.
Okay, hold on. Now, have we thought about how marginalized are little people in India at this point?
Yeah, what caste system are midgets in?
Oh, little people, guy, come on.
No, I could say midgets.
No, you can't.
I've said a lot worse on this show.
I know you have, but you can't say midget.
So
way to get 100 episode 100 taken down.
What I would say is.
Yeah, but like, isn't there 7 systems in the caste system? I think they got to be 6 or 7.
What if you've got a super? First of all, he's already marginalized because he's shorter than normal. Secondly, he's hairy,
average,
so he's even more looked at. So maybe he just turned to a life of crime.
There's so many.
He's robbing people, and then when he goes by, he's got a pedicure. He nails him as he jumps off the roof and skates away with his helmet and cardigan and/or sports coat.
So many conflicting reports on his size, though. It's anywhere from 4'6" to 5'6" to 8 feet tall. To 8 feet tall.
Ooh, so that's not a monkey man. That is a gorilla man.
That's an actual Sasquatch.
I will retract my roller skate comment, because if you Google monkey on roller skates, there's a million of them. So
so they can do it.
And, you know,
Yep.
The jacket would be, unless he had a fanny pack, where's he going to put his stuff when he's skating? Like the jacket.
His tail. He just holds it with his tail.
Correct. All right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So we got Steve's take. I think we got, JC gave us his take. Buddy, you still yes or no? I mean, you talk about the jacket and stuff, but
I've got to actually agree. You know, at first I thought this was all just, you know, kind of insane and to be honest, a little dumb. But then after Steve and JC gave theirs, well, now I'm
now you believe it.
You got me.
That's how easy.
I'm at 60-40 also. I might even be 55-45. I don't even know.
Appreciate that.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Nick, what say
you? I'm going to go with 100% somebody like this did it, but I'm not going to go as a monkey man. All right. I'm going to kind of piece everything together here, where you had a small person, buddy, right? Okay. Tiny, a little person who was in the caste system, right? And, you know, and he didn't like where he was. So it's kind of like, you know, how Freddy Krueger went, you know, in kids' dreams and killed, you know, all these people because of, you know, how he was treated in life. But I think this little man, all right, dressed up in disguise, and
let's not misgender him, okay? Maybe
could be a girl
person,
right? Little person, and he was terrorizing whatever city he was in. New Delhi, you said, right? And then you know, if you actually do real research into this, like if you do real research, you know, like peer reviewed, which is obviously Indiana Jones, you know, and you noticed in the Temple of Doom, they eat monkeys' heads.
Yeah.
So
they do
in New Delhi. So obviously the helmet was because they attempted to eat his brain.
Ooh, what if they did eat part of his brain?
Might explain the abnormal hair growth, right? It just, you know, something like that, and strength. Could be some kind of experiment that went wrong, but I think he went around terrorizing the town, and the town in an attempt to cover up what they did to this poor person. We don't know if it was a guy.
He was seeking revenge. Yeah.
So they just made some kind of crazy story about a monkey man, but it's actually a half-eaten brained midget running around with overgrown hair. Little person.
That's intense.
Hitting people. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go 100% not really a monkey man, but 100% happened with somebody who looked like that.
Damn. Okay. Well, I think that's it. I think we got some good takes on that, and there is a 1 hour episode on the History Channel about this guy. So go ahead and watch it. If you're interested,
does it have the
guy? If you're watching, you know, we could always use some new sponsors, but
History Channel, you can sponsor us. We bring the real research to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We all just made everything up, but that was good. Anyhow, buddy, I think you're up, right?
No, he's not. It's JC.
No,
he's not.
I'm not.
JC's doing it.
You didn't read the script.
I didn't read the script,
and I was like, "Oh, wait, no, I'm not in there."
That's right.
So JC isn't, like, we tried to make fun of him last time he didn't show up, and it's like he's an extremely overpaid public speaker. So if we give him like at least like 3 to 5 minutes here, it's got to be gold. So no pressure. This is worth about like $400. So in 3 to 5 minutes.
A little bit more than that, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Should we bow?
Yeah, don't make eye contact with him when he talks.
You notice how he has his camera low so that you're looking up to him.
Yeah.
I got you. I go to college too, JC. It's not a huge deal.
I'm just going to go ahead and mute my mic.
Wow. All right. So I actually had a thought over the week, and I did want to share it across. So I think that there's so much pressure out there, you know, and you hear it from kids, and I think it's all over social media. I'm not really on social media anymore, about living a life of purpose and like thinking about some grandiose purpose for our lives. Like, are you living your purpose? Are you living your purpose? As veterans transition, you know, I got to figure out my new purpose. And we're looking at it wrong. What we need to do is we need to find purpose in every single moment of every single day. And our purpose can be talking to somebody, opening the door for somebody, you know, being on, talking, watching this right now, people that are watching this. We have to be, you know, we have to be comfortable finding purpose in every small moment, as opposed to looking at this big, grandiose, what's my purpose? And I think it's especially hard for military folks who have spent a lifetime of purpose and a very clear purpose. But if you really break it down and you analyze what we did, we had a purpose in every single moment, right? Whether it was on target or off target, we had a purpose. Whether it was helping a soldier, you know, doing God's work, whatever it was, we had a purpose in every single moment. And then all those moments created a larger purpose. So if we stop worrying about what our larger purpose is and we focus on every single moment, what's our purpose in this moment right now? What's my purpose when I sit with my wife? What's my purpose when I'm sitting across from Earl there at dinner? And we focus on those purposes, I think we're a lot happier. And I think it's manageable, right? I think then we start to go, so this is my larger purpose, because all of those purposes to get combined create a larger purpose.
So JC, are you saying that it could be possible to not even know your purpose at the moment that your purpose is happening?
Absolutely.
Like some type of butterfly effect of purpose? Yeah. Absolutely. I think that it's really important that we try to find our purpose in every moment. And look, our purpose is going to change. Sometimes I'm doing X and sometimes I'm doing Y. If I'm always the same, if my purpose is always the same, well, then I'm probably done when that purpose is over. And that's not how the world works, right? My purpose changes. My purpose adapts. I adapt. So yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, that kind of goes along the lines of, you know, what we've talked about a lot in the first, 20 episodes when we started this show was, you're a veteran, but that doesn't define you, right? That doesn't mean that's all that you are, right? And, I got diagnosed with PTSD, and like I said, some people don't like Dr. Gade because of his, political views, but, his book, Wounding Warriors, and, he talks about, we pretty much just coach all these guys to just start feeling sorry for themselves. That you're 70% disabled because of PTSD, right? Like, what does that mean? What about PTSD? What specifically about it? And so once you start going down that train of now using that as a crutch for every time you make a mistake, it's like eventually you're not going to see the difference. You're not going to know what your purpose is in the moment because you already have the excuse lined up.
And you're going into full-blown victim mentality, and then just everything is because of that, and blaming everything. Yeah.
I mean, you're accurate.
I think your purpose. I think your purpose should always be, and I say this to a lot of people. I think your purpose should always be, you gotta love yourself first. Like I know it sounds like you got to take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of yourself, all the shit's gonna come. It's gonna spiral downward, And way too often do we want to focus on taking care of everybody else around us, especially in the military. You focus on work, you focus on your soldiers. And then we forget about our home life and everything. And then even when you get out, maybe you're trying to take care of other people, but you don't focus on yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself first and loving yourself first, I don't know. That's a recipe.
I'm trying to love myself at least once a day.
Yeah. Try to. You're a pretty nice guy, buddy. I love you too.
It increases the testosterone. No, there's mixed studies behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Verlander abstains before pitching, just saying. So you might want to I
don't pitch though.
I'll back up what JC said, though. I think it's JC and I have had conversations about this too. And my verbiage is, of course, not as good as his, but we talk about being less heroic in the things that you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talk to somebody like, I'm going to run a marathon. Oh, what was your 10K time last year? What was your 5K time? Oh, I never ran one. Like, we do these grandiose things of like trying to move the needle in these extraordinary ways. I'm going to run an ultra, and I'm just saying this in terms of like marathoning, but it's never just like, well, I'm going to try to have a decent weekend with my family, right? I'm going to do something simple a lot of times. And it's always these grandiose things. And the other piece of it that strikes a chord with me with everything that you're saying is, we need to start drawing a line between what you did and who you are. All right. So, and the reason why I say that is, and you see it in healthcare, you see it in all these professions because what happens is when you identify yourself with your job, and whether it's as a special operations person or a soldier or a police officer, fire person, nurse, whatever it is, if you're identifying with who you are, and this is researched, if you're identifying who you are by your occupation, well, then when you make a mistake, you no longer had a bad day at work, you're bad at life. And I believe that it's that crossover that gives a lot of difficulty in the world, right? You have a bad deployment, you made a bad call, you had a bad leadership decision, whatever it is. And we need to start separating the occupation from the person, or the diagnosis from the person. And we need to stop having these extraordinary labels that are trying to encapsulate the complexity of a person. I don't know. I think it's a recipe for disaster.
No, I agree. And to put that into, I guess even more, contextual terms, is like JC said, the bigger purpose. Stop worrying so much about the bigger purpose.
Yeah.
Right. Like that should, the bigger purpose of what you want to do, in a long-term goal should already be set. So like, you can start planning things to get to that long-term purpose, to get to there. And that obviously if it's a short-term goal, then you got to have some other ones. But I think I look at it like marriage-wise. And I just had a discussion with my shrink about this, and she loves it when I call her a shrink. But my shrink was it's a little bit personal, but we were talking about some marital issues, right? And I always say sometimes, like, whenever there's angst or anxiety or tension in a marriage, we start to talk about things that are outside of the moment. And I looked at it this way, and I know I've been guilty of this a couple of times in the past month, actually, where I'm sitting there, like you said, if I'm sitting, as JC said, I'm sitting with my wife, what's my purpose right now? Right? Is my purpose right now to poke the bear as fucking hard as I can to start some shit? Like, is that what I originally sat down next to my wife for? Maybe it was, but like, no, it wasn't. Right? And it's like, you sit there and you just lose focus of what your purpose is in that moment right there. Right. And then, maybe you become an asshole. Maybe she becomes an asshole, like whatever. Everybody's guilty of it. So yeah, I like to look at it that way. I just love that reference with like, hey, well, if I'm sitting with anybody but my spouse or whatever, what's my purpose right now?
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna? And then like Steve said before the show, I never think more than 30 minutes ahead. And it's like it's like, what am I gonna do the next 30 minutes to set up the next 30 minutes? Right? Am I gonna start spiraling down a roller coaster? But yeah, that's pretty solid. Anybody got anything else on what JC said? All right,
good, man.
I guess we can roll right along. And again, 100th episode. All right, this is awesome. Joe, who no longer does the Saturday shows with us, we miss him, but he's working with our sponsor Fleet Tech, who you saw in the beginning. So again, if you're looking for a job, all he wants to do is hire veterans, and it's potential 6-figure, work. But you got to work. Like, you got it's not hard labor, but it's hours. So if you want to get off your butt and make some money, go to fleettech.com, and Ryan will help you out. But that's kind of that's Joe and I started Veteran Trash Talk, brought Buddy on, brought Dave on, brought Chris on, Muffin Fingers in the background, who screwed up earlier today, in case you were watching, but we won't hold that against him.
We love you, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris's mom is watching again too. We love you too.
Yeah. But we started it to help ourselves, and we started it to to have our own little BS session, and that's kind of like where I'm kind of giving the whole, in the last 100 episodes, 2 years worth of episodes, is now we do a conspiracy theory, because you think about it, when you're in the Army, and the barracks talks or the platoon office talks. You always talked about the most weird shit, right?
Yeah, some of those we probably not talk about on air.
Yeah. You're in the guard tower, and you're with your buddy, and like, what are you talking about? It's like you're talking about some of the most random weird shit ever.
We talked about some crazy shit, Nick, at the front gate in Samara.
Yeah. So because we didn't think you'd make it out of there, especially the front gate, because we was just waiting for the next truck to blow up. But it was just like that type of camaraderie that this community has built. And this is where I want to hit the people watching, and those of you who are watching later, is we created it, but your guys are the ones that built it. All right. You're the ones that built what we have now, because you saw what we were getting for ourselves. So it was a personal thing turned into a community thing. And now we have this community. We think it's awesome. We know it's awesome. We know it's already saved lives. And JC reached out to me a month and a half ago, and said, "Hey, you need to get this guy Steve Forti on." And he linked us up on LinkedIn. Link this up on LinkedIn. Hey, we'll take a sponsor LinkedIn if you want. But he linked us up on LinkedIn, and like I've been trying to get a bio on this guy, all right, to like so I could do an event for the show, maybe put some money into advertising for it, and get it going. But this guy's so busy, right, that he could not get it to us. And I agree when you look at his resume and what he's doing and what he's in charge of. But the thing that caught my eye, which again, buddy, this is not going to look good for you, is he is associated with Yale, all right, which also makes him associated with me, seeing as I go to the Yale to Southwest, right, and which is UTEP, and Buddy goes to the Harvard of the Southeast, which is Austin Peay.
Do you mean did he go to the old Yale or the new Yale in the Southwest?
I think it was a satellite. Not quite sure. I'm sure he'll get into it. But Steve is a perfect guest for our 100th episode, because he does work for nonprofits, he does work for profit, but all of it is centered around resilience and caring for people and caring for veterans. So Steve, welcome to the Trash Talk Hour. You experienced a little bit of the dumpster fire. Sometimes it gets a little bit
today. That was pretty. That was pretty chill today.
Well, that's because we let the Yale guy talk first, and he got all smart, so then we couldn't be smart asses. Like we had to be like, well, we got to sound fucking smart too. Like it's like you got this guy from Yale talking. But no, Steve, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Trash Talk Hour. Tell us a little bit about your service, what you got going on, and just transitioning from duty to the afterlife of being a more beneficial person to society.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. When I first heard about the show and I looked at the guests, I was like, what the hell are they having me on for? Like looking, and then I realized they probably weren't looking for like a badass warrior on the show to mix it up a bit. So I appreciate you having me on.
Imposter syndrome.
So I appreciate you having me on. I had a weird career. I was a Guard SF guy out of Rhode Island, and throughout that time I was able to jump on and off active duty in different schools along the way, picking up a decent amount of education and a decent amount of different life experience, which has brought me to a interesting point, where I am right now in my life. In one of the breaks of service, I actually went to Quinnipiac University and I became a critical care nurse. And then I did a residency at Yale New Haven Hospital System, where I got to do critical care. And when I worked from there, I went and I worked in level 1 trauma centers. Level 1's the gunshot clubs. And I worked at level 1 trauma center at Bridgeport, and got to witness that. And you got to see the toll the world was taking on society, right? And you got to see what problems faced individuals from those demographics, which was a very, very low income demographic. And then to make a little more money, because I wasn't paid well, particularly, I worked at Greenwich Hospital's emergency room. And Greenwich is one of the most affluent communities in the world. And you got to see, the similarity of problems across all the spectrums. But one of the things that was interesting is when I, came off deploying in 2009 and then again in 2011, and I did some work and then tried to transition on the civilian side. I got to see a few things. One was the profound ignorance of individuals, and not even malintention, just the complete ignorance about veterans. You talked about the post-traumatic stress thing, right? I worked for a very large company that involved going and doing consulting in ORs. And my boss, the minute we walked through the door on the first day, he stops and looks at me and he goes, "Hey man, I just got to ask, when you see blood, are you going to like freak out and kill everybody in the room?"
Yes.
That was my response. As probably, yeah. I was like, I don't know, new territory.
If you're a god, you say yes.
Yeah, new territory. And I was heartbroken by the comment. You know what I mean? Like, it was dumb. I was dumbfounded that this fairly educated individual had that thought about it, So it was hard to be in that position for a while you were transitioning. And I had that sine wave, right? Of like depression and anxiety. And then what am I doing in the world? And I thought I would have accomplished so much more, and I'm not doing enough. I never thought I'd be here. And, we find ways through that, but it wasn't until I got where I am right now at HSS where they really embrace the idea of a veteran and embrace the experiences that you have to bring a different dynamic to the environment. So, I am able in a position to take part in a few different charities. One of is Pivot Ministries, which is a faith-based drug and alcohol rehab. We keep 50 people sober every year, which is one of the, we talk about the not heroic thing. When they first asked me to be board president, I was like, if I'm going to donate time, it needs to be more grandiose than that. It needs to be bigger. And then when I started doing it, I was like, holy shit, I don't have time for this. This is a huge lift, So I get to, not have to, I get to participate in the world on that level and help keep 50 people sober. I'm 7 years myself. I don't consume anything. And then at HSS, I get to play a role as part of the executive leadership where I get to try to decrease the load and mitigate some of the things that we see rip through our community that are now sort of geared towards healthcare before COVID, but certainly exacerbated by COVID. So I'm happy to be here with you all, and I'm happy to play a role in your 100th episode. Grateful.
I love that, Steve. Can I go ahead, Nick, or whatever? I was going to rewind real quick. Obviously we all, we're really focused on the PTS. I don't like calling it PTSD. I've done it in the past, but PTSD or PTS. So we're going to stick with PTS. We talk about that a lot. And, you said you deployed and everything, and then you were obviously working in some of these facilities where you're seeing a lot of shit.
Yeah.
How did that affect you? Did it cause a little bit more stress? Because we don't give nurses enough love. We don't give, fire department, like all these individuals that are dealing with this on a daily, we don't give them enough love because they're going through the same shit, every day. But now for somebody who's been deployed and who's experienced stuff, I've experienced a car crash. My neighbor, got hit. Shout out to Joel. He got hit and he lost both his legs. And I was the first one on the scene, and everybody that came out, they were like, holy shit, what happened here? And they're fucked up. But for me, it was like just an everyday thing. Like, we saw crazy stuff when we were deployed. So I was kind of like, I don't know what the right term is, but it was like, whatever, it sucks. I had
you were also on the positive side. You were ready to react to it.
Yeah,
I was. You remember when that happened, Nick? That was like in 2009, I think, or,
that was
horrible.
Yeah.
But it didn't really affect me anymore. And actually, I guess part of me wants to say my experiences deployed helped me deal with what I witnessed there, So I don't know if you could translate or just talk about like.
Yeah. And the word I think that is appropriate for it is inoculated, right? Like, you were a little bit inoculated to the idea of trauma, inoculated to blood, like a certain familiarity that you've been here before. All right.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, if you look at the research of post-traumatic stress, okay, in some cases, yes, but overwhelmingly, all right, it's not combat. It really isn't. It doesn't even correlate to the amount of combat you've experienced or the intensity of. It doesn't really even correlate to who you may have lost or not lost. When we talk about it in that context, they actually find a lot more similarities in things like boredom or a deployment that didn't seem to be valuable, or missing holidays and birthdays as a waste of time, or moral injury for leadership.
Right.
Yeah. So we find that. Now, the same thing happens in medicine, right? And I would imagine the same things are happening for police officers right now. I absolutely have an element of post-traumatic stress, without a doubt. Had it before I went in the military, and 2 nursing experiences brought me there. One, a infant immersion injury abuse, where a child was intentionally scalded, right? And I cried in a parking lot for 2 hours when I was trying to figure out what the hell made me choose this career.
Fuck.
And no support, like no, like literally no support, where you're like turning to, and no one that could understand that thing. But Bridgeport Hospital was a burn unit, at a pediatric burn unit. So this child was brought there, and I think I had 2 weeks on the job at that point, right? And that was horrific. And then there was another time at Greenwich Hospital where a freak accident and a engaged lawnmower rolled over a 6-year-old's legs. Now that worked out okay, but there I was in this out of context environment of Greenwich. Okay. It wasn't Bridgeport, where you had residents and nurses and anesthetists and 150 years of experience to help you through a code or a gunshot or a trauma. You literally were there in this sort of utopian high income environment. They have a player piano in the lobby, and that's where the child was brought in, wrapped in a jacket, and the father threw her at me and said, "This is really bad. I need your help." Right. So sorry. So to go from there in that context and be untangling arteries and clamping them, but still having some sense of what you were doing, there was no trauma room in Greenwich. It was a room. And it wasn't like it was at Bridgeport, where you had this incredible backup. So the difficulty I experienced with those out of context environments, like the lawnmower thing, showed me early that the further you are out of your support and your technical comfort zone, the more likely you are to struggle with whatever it is experience. And that's why the preparation piece and the self-care that you mentioned is so critically important, right? Responding to a tragedy during it is not the time to respond to it. It's a proactive thing that helps us through these moments.
Yeah, and I've shared, the stories before on the show about, my PTSD, that my biggest problem that I personally suffer with. Yeah, it was in a combat situation, but it had nothing to do with an enemy combatant or anything like that. It was a kid, and it was just like, and it's just, it's hard to, you're never going to forget it. So why try? Why even try to forget it? Why not use it? And that's what I was going to segue into another a question for you. When you read your resume, but before that, how do people get to the nonprofit that you sit on the board of? What's it called again?
Pivot Ministries. But honestly, let's leave this. I'd rather us focus on the veteran piece
right
now. Like Children of Fallen Patriots are my brothers, and they do college education for kids whose parents died in combat. Nice. And I support it at every single turn that I possibly can, and promote it at every single turn that I can.
So similar to like Gold Star.
Yeah. And then
the Gold Star Teen Adventures, who we partner with them unofficially, but we send them a pretty good chunk of money every year. But how when I look at, like I said, when I look at your resume and I see that you're in charge of the resilience program and wellness program for a major corporation, right?
Huge hospital,
yeah, huge hospital. So how did these things that happen in your life? Obviously, we probably we know the answer, but out of your words, how did they make you a stronger person to take on this role and then be more productive?
Yeah. I would say because I fell, right? So from the time I was a kid, I lost my dad around 18 or 19, lost my mother to an alcohol overdose. She died of cancer from Agent Orange, right? And I handled that thing poorly. Like I wasn't there, I wasn't present, I wasn't anything. I lost my mom 7 or 8 years later to an acute alcohol event. All right, handled that better and tried to address it then. All right, we have these difficulties and failures within our lives, but it certainly was a sine wave of different moments of strength and different moments of weakness and vulnerability, etc. But I think what happened is, throughout my life, I've chosen professions of service, and I was a pretty talented athlete. I think I was pretty durable, but I saw people that were more talented and more durable than I get broken by it. Okay. name Brandon Floyd. A lot of the listeners will know back was a friend / acquaintance back in the day, and a tragic story just post 9/11 that had happened with him. And it struck a chord with me. If someone like him can fall, or someone like JC can fall, or so many of these people we know, right? I'm not who these people are. So it began to shape me to take an incredibly proactive and academic approach to my own well-being, right? The sobriety for me came from sleep's critical to inoculating yourself to these things and responding and being present and being a good partner. And when I drink, it interferes with my sleep. So I denied it for a bit, but alcohol was not a good part of the equation for me to where I needed to get where I had to go. Maybe it's not that way for everybody, but I knew for me it wasn't working. And as I began to approach these different strategies, it sort of got me to a very solid point where I was having success personally and professionally. And then COVID happened. And a friend that I had done some consulting work with reached out, and he said, listen, we're turning HSS, the Hospital for Special Surgery, into a COVID treatment facility. We're not going to stand on the sidelines. And we don't know what we're going to ask you to do, but whatever it is, we think we might be better off if you're with us. And they hired me for 90-day contract. And really on the front lines and the epicenter of COVID, I wasn't on the front lines, but HSS and the nurses and doctors were. But I was there to offer, support to them. And sometimes it was a matter of just saying, like, it's going to be all right, whatever you need. I've got your back. We got this, or even demonstrating going into the rooms, whatever it was. But all these life experiences brought to a place where I was able to translate a lot of lessons learned in the military in terms of resilience, and then bring those to the healthcare environment, or bring this to the sobriety world or the recovery world. I know that was long-winded as hell.
No, that was good. That was good. I thought JC was loading up to say something, so I wasn't gonna get in there.
No, I look, but I also want to. It goes a little bit kind of against what we've talked about, but I will say that, and Nick's alluded to this, but one of the things that is just so, I call, as I said, I called Steve a unicorn. My wife was describing him to somebody the other day, and we just refer to him as the unicorn, because he's this guy who is exactly who you want with you going through a door, but he's also exactly the guy you want with you in a hospital room. And he's also exactly the guy you want with you across the dinner table. He's the guy you like, I can't think of a time when I don't want Steve there. That said, the one thing that strikes me about Steve is consistently giving of himself. And he puts, I know that he takes care of himself, but every appearance from the outside is he puts everyone ahead of himself. He has this beautiful family. I thought I had good kids. His kids, I thought they were like Stepford wives. I thought they were like robots. They're so perfect. I mean, you come into his house, like reading and doing Legos, and I'm like, well, excuse me, would you like to play Lego? You're just like, come on, where are the strings? Where's the batteries? They're amazing. His wife is just such this real person, and everything he does is for others, and he's empathetic, and he's intuitive, and we met kind of a tough time that I was going through years ago, and he saw it. He was actually interviewing me to do a speech, and within a minute he goes, "You're not in a great place right now." I'm like, holy shit, how does he know that? And since that moment, he has done every time I've seen him do anything, it is for others. And I think that's really important, because I do think that that's something that a lot of veterans can take. I think it helps him. I think that when he's helping others, it helps him.
Coping mechanism, yeah.
Sure. And I think that he does find those little bits of purpose in every single moment, and he is absolutely 110% present in every moment I've ever seen him.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words.
And Steve, you are a unicorn. Listen, I mean,
I've had a lot of great friends and mentors that have showed me the way. You know, I do know this. We didn't join the military because we're sort of self-centered, right? I mean, at least most of us had this higher.
Buddy did.
Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad he did. He's kind of a badass. He's got a lot of schools and shit. So
yeah, he came.
I thought when I joined the army, I would get a cool hat in the 82nd, and then like all the ladies would flock, and I was like, oh wait, everybody's got this hat.
It's all dudes.
The only people that are even impressed slightly are guys. It's like,
somebody asked me how I made it.
Horrible miscalculation.
Somebody asked me how I made it through selection. I said it was because I lacked the courage to quit.
Yeah.
I understand the walls. I was like, I'm not. This seems like a terrible idea, but I'm already heading. I'm not going to quit this. It's been good for me because one of the things is, we aspire to have some some service, and we talk about this, right? So let's look at this from another way, right? Is there anything worse than when the military employed your time in a meaningless way, when it was wasted, when you could have been present with girlfriends, families, when it shredded
child being born,
right? And when you think about these things, it drove me insane. It was what I struggled with. I've spent more time in counseling discussing how when I got back from Afghanistan in 2009 and I was going to meet my now wife, then girlfriend in Indianapolis, we deployed through Camp Atterbury. And I was told, I was like going down to into Indianapolis, and this non-deployed sergeant major is like, where are you going? And I was like, oh, I'm just going down to Indianapolis. I'm going to spend the weekend there because we're not, demob until Monday. And he's like, no, you're not. It's 55 miles. It's outside of Power, 61 miles, whatever it is. I was like, no, I'm really going. And he's like, well, you better take a buddy with you. And I was like, for 9 months in Afghanistan, nobody was like, hey, this might be too risky. This is a bad idea. We're going to give you all the resources you possibly need to ensure your safety. And now in Indianapolis, you're doubling down on
more people get killed in Indianapolis than Afghanistan. So
right, fair point. Now, right? But seriously, and that was the thing. So I guess to look at it from a different angle, right? We can have meaningful service, and whether it's a board president of a drug and alcohol rehab, or honestly, like consistency at a soup kitchen, we don't have to cure cancer to have a meaningful existence. And if the only thing I ever did that day in my life was pick up that JC wasn't having a good day, then that's a win for me. And I take that seriously. And if you could collect a bunch of wins like that, and it's not holding a door open for somebody, but we go through these communication things, right? Hey, buddy, how you doing? Doing great, living the dream, right? And we say these things back and forth, and none of us are present, and it's all in passing. And I'm not saying Buddy would be that guy that says that. Just
I would be. I would definitely be that guy.
Right,
You're
so
right.
living the dream.
Buddy expects everybody to be the honor grad of a school.
When people like they say that, I'm just like, hey, go fuck yourself. That's how my day's going. Go.
Yeah. But you're real and you're present when you say go fuck yourself.
Yeah, true.
I know there's nothing wrong with Buddy when he tells me to go fuck myself. I'm like, he's good. He's in the right place. Yeah. But he asked me, hey,
Steve,
I'm okay.
Yeah. Steve, I wanted to rewind because you kind of didn't strike a nerve, but like almost like a trigger. I want to call it a trigger in a good way, because you talk about missed opportunities, and Nick threw it in right away because missing a child's birth, like that gives me like one of the biggest stressors in my PTS. We were in Samara, and then we went to Barkuba for a little bit, and we got in this big engagement. It was the first time that I shot somebody. You would think that was
Ogren shot him.
Catalyst. Ogren shot him, right? Yeah, it's an insider joke, but you would think that would be the catalyst to starting everything. But then for months, and still to this day, I deal with nightmares about a child growing up without a father, because my son was born while I was deployed. We got to Kuwait, and then he was born, and I never even got to see my kid. So that one right there, it's not the engagement, the firefight that caused the stress. It's actually, I don't know. You just triggered me there a little bit in a good way. But that's like a lot of my PTSD stems from that.
What would have been the likely response? And I'm not trying to say anything about your leadership, but I've seen this before, right? And then somebody's like, oh, what's going on with him? Oh, he's having a tough time. What happened? Well, he had his kid born 2 weeks ago. Well, that's the business we're in. I didn't issue him his wife. All the fucking cliches, all the nonsense that does nothing but demoralize somebody and shred them. You know, the lack of acknowledgement. And those are the leadership failures. We can shoot, move, and communicate better than anybody. But who's the leader that can actually look at a guy and say, he's not doing all right, and why? And whether I think his shit's legitimate or not, we're going to support him.
And I want to say back to the leader. That's a good point you bring up. And I think we've transitioned and we've shifted a lot. Like Nick and I went back a year later to Iraq, and we had several in the platoon. I mean, Danny was one of them. They would keep soldiers back for, you know, childbirth and everything. Back in 2006, it was, you know, you have a battalion of 60 soldiers. You keep one back, you got to keep the other 60 back. And then you're in a leadership position already, team leader, squad leader. You know, you take him out of the fight. So back then it was a little different. They did send me home, 3 weeks in, Nick, or 4 weeks, like into the deployment.
First one on leave.
And then I went right back, and then we got extended. So I was there for an entire year. Full year, and we didn't go to Kuwait and do stuff there. Full year of combat, and then I finally got home, and then a year later we went back. So, you know, the leadership, I just think the military has transitioned. So I don't want to. We had amazing leadership back then, but if they let one person stay back, they would have had to let everybody else stay back. You know, so it's kind of a tricky situation. What comes first, then, the mission or the people? You know, in my opinion, the people, the soldiers should come first, but there was still a mission that needed to be made. You know, so yeah.
That's a tricky tough one. Probably a whole another episode.
Very tough one
that we could talk about. At what point in time is it like, because people first I think is a cliched statement that the DoD put out to just impress Congress. You know, but it's like,
I would agree with that.
You know, and
if you take care of your people, they're going to take care of you. And
but then
it's
again,
all situational based.
You think Buddy was going to rip on this one real quick. You could see it, but like you could, you know, again, if our mission is to go and win wars. Right, if that's our job, it's going to cost.
There's a price for that.
You take a leader out.
I told you, it's going to be and now when we're in the height of the war in Iraq, you know, where you're getting the most in contact of any other periods of time, and it's like, well, let's leave like 50 guys back.
Yeah,
no.
But I want to make sure I want to
combat ineffective in a sense, right? Well, they weren't trained enough. Right. The next guy should have been able to step up, but like. Yeah,
but what I would say,
if there's no next guy, because everybody's
but
back.
Sometimes empathy is enough, right? Sometimes a bit of compassion is enough. So life is brutal. Same thing. You're in the middle of a code in an emergency room, like whatever the case is. Sometimes you just got to take it hard, and it goes that way. But sometimes if that does happen, and you got a leader or a friend or whatever, or an environment of compassion that is there for you. And, you know, words like compassion, empathy, love, for my time in the military, most of it, right? If you told somebody to take some time for yourself, do some breath work when you recover from a significant engagement, you know what I mean? Express gratitude. They tell you to go fuck yourself, right? But when we look at the science behind these things, these practices are necessary to perform at your highest level, to be a unit with the highest lethality possible. You need to be in an environment of compassion and forgiveness and understanding, because we know what the shredding of the individual does. It's the CrossFit everyday mentality. You get them great for a short period of time, but then you lose the institutional knowledge when they're burnt out, left, alcoholic, suicidal, whatever the case may be, and you lose that. So it's good business to be compassionate.
And real quick, Larry in the chat says, could that be the reason retention is so low in the military now, because they're not taking care of our brothers and sisters?
I'm going to crush that one.
Honestly, so Larry, I think it's completely shifted. Like I brought up my situation in 2006, and then, you know, we came back after 15-month deployment, went back a year later, Nick and I, and, you know, now they keep soldiers back, you know, to witness the birth of their child and everything, you know? So like, I think we've completely shifted into a different direction. I think the military is a lot better. Coming up in the 82nd, like going to sick call, you're a shitbag.
This goes back to Steve's, you know, and this goes back to JC's, Steve's pre-show comment, and then JC's soapbox about the 30, like, what's your purpose right now? Like, what's your purpose right now?
Well,
and I think that goes, like, JC will answer it, but I want to go back to what Larry said in the chat. And I do get triggered, but I'm not going to become a pansy. I'm just going to get triggered, right? Like
get triggered. It's
like,
okay.
I'm going to get triggered that I hate when they blame the Army for something that I perceive, my construct is a society problem, a societal problem, right? suicide is a societal problem. Now, you want to know why suicide was an Army responsibility when I was in the Army? Because I was a fucking leader in the Army. So you're goddamn right, it was my responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? But it wasn't the Army's fault. Okay? Like, it's not the Army. The retention for the Army is, I know Buddy wants to go on this bad, is that, like General Brunson said, our guy, and he could get a little hot water for it, but he's like, maybe if society wasn't all on legal drugs and fat, we wouldn't have this problem either. And it's like,
yeah,
maybe, buddy. You didn't say anything all day.
You're right, though, Nick. You're right.
I've been listening. Couple things. First thing, like when we talk about the people first, then mission. If that was the case, if that was true, if the Army actually believed this, then they wouldn't send you to charge up a hill and try to get, take over a machine gun nest, right? Because that people are going to die when you do that.
JC, eat this up. JC, you're next. Don't worry, you're next.
Hold on.
JC's been eating up for the last 2 minutes.
I'm just going on mute.
It's not that. It's when you say that, people think it's either mission for first or people. It's not.
And Dan Blakely's watching.
You have to get the mission done in the best way possible for your people. You still have to get both. You have to care about the people. You have to get the mission done. You're not going to charge up a hill and try to take over a machine gun nest. You're not just going to go straight at it. You're going to try to flank it. You're going to throw smoke. You're going to do all of the things to give your people the best opportunity to survive. So it's not one or the other. You have to take care of both. That's the job.
It's a system.
That is.
Yeah. And like, okay, so,
when it comes to deployments, though, specifically, buddy, which we obviously transitioned, You
didn't get to be there for the birth of your kid. Okay, that sucks, right? Like they had to have people. Samara was a wreck at the point. People were getting shot. You guys were getting in firefights all the time. They needed folks, right? Well, okay. You have to miss the birth of your kid. Okay, well then that doesn't mean that they can't set aside an MWR so that you can see your kid, so you can talk to people, so you can
the empathy
do
that
the
Steve was
things that
talking
you
about.
need to do.
Yeah.
You can't get pulled in by your leader and go, hey man, like, you good? You get to talk to your kid today? Do you get to see the baby? Is there anything that we can do to help you out? Like, we're going to try to get you on leave. Hey, we got extended. We're going to try to get we're going to send it up and try to just that little bit of like Steve said, just that little bit of compassion, that little bit of understanding.
100%.
Like I'll tell you, like when
and I'm not and buddy, real quick, I'm not bashing our leadership for what happened at all. I love we had some of the best leaders, Yeah, but it's just it was one of those triggers that like affects me, I wasn't there, took somebody's life and now I'm,
Well, that's the other thing. You don't know what you don't know, right? Like when I was when I was a team sergeant, I had a guy that got divorced, right?
That's special forces.
To be perfectly honest, his wife was a dirty fucking whore. No, I mean, he caught her cheating on him 6-7 times. Like,
oh, you talked about this guy.
Things. He got divorced, and I was like, hey, okay, cool. Like, you should have left her a long time ago. This is like whatever, not a big deal. Like, just deal with it. Well, fast forward a little bit, about a year, I get divorced for a lot of the same reasons, and I realized I was like, I did that. I fucked that up. I had to call him in the office, and I was like, hey man, like, you're right. Like, it doesn't matter what she did. You were still going through something, and I should have still done a better job. I'm sorry I didn't do I didn't do the job that you needed me to do. I mean, we're best friends at this point, but at the end of the day, like, you don't know every experience that you are going to have to go through. You don't exactly know how to deal with it. And I think that, Steve's right. If you just go to a foundation of how would you want somebody to deal with it if it was you, it kind of helps you, get to that point where you can help other people out. The other thing is, like, when we talked about like post-traumatic stress and all that stuff, and we talk about the stress of missing birthdays and missing holidays, and and how the combat is not the worst part. It's part of it, but the worst part is the guilt that you feel about, I wasn't the best dad or the best husband or the best this. And the fact that I chose the military and the guys over staying home with my wife and kids is the reason I'm in, the position I'm in now. And it's all my fault. When you're training,
just prioritize it, man. We just prioritize
like you said,
it. Yeah.
When you walk up,
JC's still waiting.
when you see on a,
well, I like this tactic. Buddy's doing it. He learned this in one of his schools. He was qualified. And he's like, if I just keep talking, JC will forget what his counter was.
Oh, I thought you were about to say like MRT or something. But
he's like, "Where's the moderator in this?" I think that's me.
Well,
I think I'm the moderator.
When you go
get
up
to the point, buddy.
I'm trying to, dude. George, shut the fuck up.
Here goes a dumpster fire. We haven't had one yet today.
That's the logo. That's the logo. All right.
When you go up to when you go up to somebody that's got no legs, but you've seen people that have wounds before, it's not going to affect you. When you practice it, in training, if you're out at a mount site, they've got moulage kits. It desensitizes you and inoculates you to seeing that stuff. But what we don't ever
you copied Steve's word.
I did. Well, I'm just going to go with
because you can't spell inoculate, so you can't use it.
He hit inoculated earlier.
Steve can spell it. He went to Yale.
Yeah, the real one, not that fake one you go to. Anyway,
residency program,
not
liberal arts.
The thing is, we don't train at all for any of those other things. Really, you have to experience them to get the training for them. And then once you've experienced them, then you can help other people. That doesn't really help you in what you've dealt with. You know what I mean? So we're like a wealth of knowledge for all the younger guys coming up, but then we don't really want to say anything because we don't want to look like we're weaker or, that we have problems. We just say, suck it up, dude. I had to go through the same thing. Quit being a bitch. Anyway, Stacey, tear it up.
What'd you say, buddy? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to tear it up. I'm going to start with saying this is, I got to go have dinner with my wife because that's where I need to be. That's my purpose right now. But I'm going to tell you, here's my thought.
You're already? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's 6:00 by him.
I know. I'm in Arizona, JC. I'm in Arizona. It's still early over here,
We're in Arizona.
Phoenix?
Oh, I need to link you up with my folks.
Yeah, I'm right outside of Phoenix. I'm in Surprise, Arizona, about 30 minutes outside of Phoenix. Yeah.
They live in Cave Creek. They got a ranch out in Cave Creek.
Yeah, I know where Cave Creek's at. Yeah, beautiful area.
So look, I don't disagree with what Buddy said. We got to experience it, and I certainly experienced it. I don't think, but what I'm going to disagree with, Buddy, is I don't think you got to do both as a leader. I think that what you got to do as a leader is you got to take care of your people. And if you take care of your people, the mission piece will happen. Okay. And
I said that earlier.
And I believe that my number one job as a leader is not the mission. It's to empower my people that they can do any mission in the world. And I'll tell you, if you lead the right way,
mission command,
and you put them first and you put them above everything else. And I've seen it because I've had great leaders who did it right. I mean, McChrystal was great at it. He put Rangers first, and that way there wasn't anything he didn't have to ask. Like, think about it. We've never asked the dude to charge up the hill. The dude charges up the hill because he feels like his leaders, he trusts his leaders. He or she trusts their leaders, and they believe that they're being taken care of. And that's why charge up that hill. It's not being told to
they charge up the hill because if they don't charge up the hill, somebody's going to kill one of their buddies.
Right. So in my mind, it's about, if I think, and this isn't, in my mind, this isn't a chicken or the egg. One does come first. It's I take care of my people. And I'll tell you what, I missed the birth of my daughter as well. And not for something as important as war, but so I can compete in the best Ranger competition. I was a piece of shit for doing that. Okay. And what a good leader should have done is told me, and I loved my leaders. I had good leaders, but we hadn't experienced combat. So I get it. Like, they didn't know. What they should have done is said, yeah, you're not going. Your wife's due. You're staying here. That's what they should have done. Just like I had to order dudes home. Wife got in an accident. Kid had a problem. Hey, you're going home. Sir, I don't want to go home. Yeah, I don't care. You're going home. Like, I got it. Because sometimes that's what good leaders do. is they recognize, like, I got it. I'm one guy down. Maybe I'm 2 guys down. Shit, maybe I'm 5 guys down. But you know what? The war ends. Whatever we're doing in that moment ends. And what I don't want is in, 20 years when the kid's like, yeah, you weren't there for this, or you didn't do this. They already signed up for a bunch of that stuff. So I'm a guy who absolutely believes it is people over everything. Now, I'm not so far as to say the Army's gotten better. I think leaders have gotten better, and that's who is the Army. But there's still a lot of leaders, and Nick and I have come across them even recently where, we're not going to have a suicide problem. How the heck do you know that, dude? Like, holy crap.
Yeah, I like that. I like that response. Yeah. We're too senior for suicide prevention training.
Yeah, you guys are crushing it.
Yeah, that's just a bunch of fucking Go ahead, JC.
In my mind, and I've learned this from screwing it up for a long time, and I did screw it up. Like, if there's anybody listening who served with me as like a new company commander, they'll be like, the guy was a jerk. He made me go to the field. I didn't know any better. I was dumb, but I got to a point now, and I tell this to professional coaches, I tell this to college coaches, I tell this to CEOs. Your job as a leader is to tell guys, yeah, I know you want to be here. You need to go home. This is what you need to do right now. We got this. And here's the other thing is, if you put people first, somebody's going to step up and fill that hole. Like, they're absolutely going to do it. So,
right, but we're guilty of it, and this can go into like the AAR because you got to go to dinner. But we're guilty of it. I mean, I shouldn't say we. I know I am, and because I kind of just did it earlier. Is you just talked about things in a system, like we always talk about. It's a complex system, right? As opposed to
Steve's ready. Steve.
As opposed to the linear. The reason why the Army retention is low is because of this. There's lots of reasons why. There's lots of reasons why. And taking care of soldiers, like I said, and this is why I've been arguing with WTF moments a lot in the past couple of weeks. And I love Spanky, and I love Kaz, I love all those guys. Ice? We have a good relationship with them, but it's like I do get mad at some of the moderators on that page when they're like, they'll post a link like that, and it's like, you think that's the fucking reason? Right? Like, you just hurt the Army with that post, right? Because that's that one freaking platoon. That's not the Army. That's one thing where that leader made a mistake. And who knows? Maybe that soldier made a complaint, and that platoon sergeant or PL is in an office.
But Nick, WTF. Real quick, WTF is pretty good about screening the fucking shit that comes through.
Well, they should get fucking better at it in the last fucking month.
I know you were on WTF too, so maybe it's like a personal thing.
Exactly. So no, I
feel like they're pretty good about it, and they do like expose some bullshit.
Hey, I love all you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for having me.
Your purpose,
but I love my wife more.
All right, Chris, get ready for the
screen. As you should, JC. As you should.
You can talk lots of shit. I'll talk to y'all later.
Deuces, homie. Deuces.
Later.
No,
but you're right, Nick. But I think,
that's why I prefaced my statement saying recently. I said recently I have been getting after WTF because it's like, you don't think that post right there hurts Army retention? When now all the people that go on WTF moments who have not joined the Army yet, and now they think because you posted some story about some team.
That's the norm.
Let's be logical. Let's be logical about Army retention.
Yeah, I got nothing against the organization of WTF moments. I'm just saying.
I see what you're saying, Nick.
They're starting to just make a linear statement about a complex organization.
Bigger picture, 100%. You're right.
Bigger picture.
They have over 1 million followers.
What's that, buddy? Why do you think Army retention would be low right now?
There's a lot of factors like economic. Like, I'm in recruiting, and I'm not going to touch that too much.
Corporations can't even hire people right now.
Like, dude, McDonald's is giving fucking bonuses, signing bonuses to fucking, and then COVID kicked off, and like our whole economy is like,
I got a good
100%.
Go ahead. Wait, we got our guest wants to talk.
I got a piece of it. So one of the interesting things that we look for, right? So there's two different levels we got to look at these things, right? We have this huge institution, the military, and there are people that work for that on the side, like I do in a hospital-based setting, to decrease the stress and friction in the environment. Okay. And maybe, just maybe, you can move the needle slightly in a positive direction. But on an individual basis, you could move the needle tremendously. And I think people look at the suicide issue or post-traumatic stress issue as something they're going to fix institutionally. Don't hold your breath. It's not going to happen. It comes from empowering individuals with the tools and the knowledge to offset it and to cope with it. And that's where they come up short. All right. So when you have leaders, like, what's a leader look like? Well, you have a leader that talks about shit like, I got a great night's sleep and I didn't drink and get shit-faced on a Friday night. And I didn't say anybody could do this sober to anybody, right? When we start high-fiving people for getting a decent night's rest, properly supporting their hydration and nutrition, and showing up ready to train instead of showing up in this sort of shredded catabolic state. And when we see people taking care of themselves.
Oh shit, that was our fucking 82nd day.
Me. I mean, listen, in the 90s, anybody, you know, I did my.
No, but I like where you're going at.
You're 11 minute 2 miles didn't count if you weren't at a .02, like when you were running.
Yeah, Nick was like the fastest, probably the fastest 2 miler in our platoon. Yeah.
And that's a high five, right? You'd be like,
but I also got drunk the night before.
Do this shit hungover.
I was about to say that.
Right.
Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
No problem. I apologize if I'm rambling. But so
no, you're good. It's the dumpster fire.
I think what happens is we need to start leaning into this space where it's like the suicide's actually on you, right? If you are preparing yourself to deal with the stressful environment, if you're initiating self-care, if you're not looking to substances to inoculate or anesthetize yourself to the difficulties of your lives, if you're seeking help early, that's how we fix the suicide piece. So it's a little bit of tougher love than most people talk in this space. But people don't kill themselves, like you said, for one reason, where they experienced something in combat and that was it. They couldn't take it. There is a litany of things, from insomnia, from alcohol and drug abuse.
Tinnitus is when I want to blow my brains off. It's like, holy shit.
From steroids to travel to relationships to all of it. All of these things go into this collective pot. So I think people need to start showing at a leadership level that element of self-care and supporting this down regulation in your world instead of this high intensity, high performance, high operational tempo world, just supporting bringing it down or the individual's ability to bring it down. Now, as far as why we have a retention and recruitment problem, a big part of it is the pool, okay? Destruction of children's sports, societal problem, okay? These people have osteoporotic. I'm not speaking on the terms of HSS. There's a not-profit.
Osteoporotic. Okay.
Yeah, like
he could probably spell it. Normally, Steve, we don't use words on the show.
I would have said that, spell it, but I didn't.
Weak bones, right?
Yeah, Buddy needs to spell the word he used, but we won't get back.
He's writing it down right now for his AAR. Yeah.
So their bodies are weak. Their structure is weak. They're prone to injury. They have felonies or domestic violence issues. They have tattoos that won't let them into the service. So the pool of potential recruits now is so shrunk down, let alone stupid shit that they post on social media that might disqualify them from service, or a million other things, or disqualify them for adulthood, right? So there's a million things going on. Now they have a very limited pool of individuals to pull from, right? And then you have to just say, like, well, does this limited pool even want to serve? And that's the military's problem, right? That's the piece that needs to be addressed. Are there benefits enough? Are there rewards? Is there skills that are, do they help them transition? Because every guy that leaves the military jaded is more powerful than any recruiter can offset. When you got a guy that gets
or a jaded Facebook page.
Oh, terrible, right? And people just are out there just bad-mouthing the institution. Listen, I had great leadership. I've gotten more than I ever put into it. I'm grateful for every day of it. But that's not the sentiment that a lot of people hear, you know?
Yeah, maybe we'll have to bring Spanky and Ice back on here and talk about that.
We do.
Yeah,
we do.
Talk about
Nick, like the more I think about what you brought up is 100%. But then, like, I look back too, where we got into this realm of social media, and things of that nature and all that. Like, things changed after that anyway. And then a lot of the bad shit or fucked up shit that was going on was brought to light through WTF. you know, and it was screened and like some bad dude. I don't know the highest rate. I think generals have been fired over WTF, right? Or at least, you know, like people have been
investigation started for sure. Yeah.
Investigation started and a lot of shit was fixed, whether we agree with it or not, that we're now in this social media realm. But you brought up a great point, Nick, where now it's like everybody that's watching this, because we have over 1 million followers on WTF, or WTF has that. And people that are just seeing it for the first time, like,
we're almost at 1 million followers.
General,
so,
you know? Yeah, we are. But it's that's a tricky one. We should bring them back on. Spanky and Ice, if you're watching, time to go. Let's do this again
for sure. But so buddy, are you gonna handle the AR? Because I was on the script, but Dave thinks you're doing it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, because
he was just taking notes. He's working on his college assignment. You need to talk about your college experience, buddy. Like,
but Steve, awesome having.
I don't even want to talk about the college experience, and I honestly think that part of that college experience and dealing with the 19, 20-year-olds goes back to what we're talking about, like kind of the retention thing. I would argue that the retention thing is that what war are they going to go fight? It's harder to recruit during peacetime than it is during wartime, because the people that want to join the military, want to join the army. Remember when you joined the army? Did you think that you were going to come get your butt touched and told that you were fucking awesome all the time? Or did you think you were going to get your dick knocked in the dirt and have to do hard stuff and go out?
Spot on, brother. Like,
you know what I mean? And then they get there.
You're spot on.
And there's no turning the dial.
We've been at war for the last 20 years, you know? Right. So, I mean, you joined in the 90s, buddy. You joined like in 95 or something, you know, because you're like an ancient guy.
Not a huge deal.
So what war were we in 98? I don't like nothing crazy going
my
on.
My first deployment, we still had
Bosnia, Yugoslavia. I was still living in Germany. I just wanted to put that out there, buddy.
Kosovo, after Kosovo,
Cape Town doesn't exist.
Egypt, and then I mean, honestly, the global war on terror kicked off pretty soon after I joined. It wasn't that long, but the difference was that from 98 till 2001, you talk about missing, your child's birth because you were on deployment. Sarge, if you were on an NTC or not an NTC, but an intensive training cycle for 6 weeks in the 82nd, you didn't get out of that because you had a baby being born. You didn't.
Again, let me make it clear. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying that was one of my triggers to my nightmares and shit.
Shut the fuck up. I know. I'm just saying.
Dumpster fire.
You didn't get out.
You created it. You started that one, Dave.
But what I'm saying is we also trained relatively hard. We also trained in relatively very similar to war-like conditions. We were tired. We were moving all day. We were going to, mount sites. We were shooting at people. We had moulage kits. We're doing all this other stuff. But, you turn that dial of stress a little bit at a time, and then you turn it back down, and you turn it back up a little bit. You turn it back down. It's kind of like, we talked about going to run a marathon. You can't just, I'm going to go run a marathon and run out the next day and go run a marathon and think that when you're done running that marathon, you're going to be physically and mentally in great shape. You have to train for it in a responsible way, and then you can run.
Manner, yeah.
The first guy that ran a marathon was dead at the end because he just decided that I'm going to go run the marathon.
So you think 26.2 is where he finally died, and then they just called it the marathon?
I don't know. But what I'm saying is you have to slowly increase stress so that people know how to deal with it when stressful moments happen. And we don't really do that very well in the military anymore. And why we don't do that, we also, while we have decreased the amount of stress we expect people to handle, we've increased the amount of excuses we allow them to give to get out of whatever. Like, I just don't, I don't physically feel like. And then, like I said,
we find that. We could go on for hours.
You're talking about the college thing.
Like I said, this is a whole other show. We could always bring Steve on for a whole other show about retention.
Like, where's the happy buddy? Where's the happy medium?
Well, exactly.
Like, when does top down and bottom up meet?
Yeah.
Right. Like, when does it meet?
Yeah.
Right? There's got to be a point where it meets.
back to Steve talking about the pool coming into the military. I went to a literature class the other day, and we're talking about a fictional story. This is a fiction story.
Fancy.
In this story,
while I take a sip of this.
In this story,
that's not for recruiting command, by the way.
The protagonist of the story commits suicide. Before talking about that portion of this fictional story, the doctor in the class says, "Hey, if anybody is triggered by suicide and it's a hard topic and they can't do it, you can go outside. You don't have to be." We give them an excuse to get out, whether they are or not triggered by suicide. We give them an excuse to leave. You're a fucking adult at this point. Having hard conversations is part of being an adult. Talking about suicide is not easy. Talking about people that that have committed suicide is not easy. Because it's not easy doesn't mean you don't do it. It means that you figure out how to do it so that you can understand what happened and understand the phenomena of killing yourself or rape or murder or any of these other hard topics that adults are supposed to happen or that are supposed to have. But we coddle people all the way up now they're 25 and 30 years old, and we don't understand why they're not functioning members of society, and they get triggered, and they need safe spaces, and they need this and they need that, and they feel entitled. Well, they feel entitled because we've entitled them their entire life. We've coddled them from the truth of life. And then they join the army and they're like, well, I don't understand why the drill sergeant doesn't understand that I can't be here today because my mom's birthday is next week and I need to go and buy her a present. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to, it's relative. As people out of things for excuse after excuse after excuse, then you have to let everybody out for every fucking minute fucking. But look, I have an ingrown toe. I can't go out.
I'm glad this show went long enough for me to drink enough bourbon to not do any homework when I'm done.
Well, I'm annoyed that I have a whole half of.
No, this is good. I think we could do an entire episode on this, man.
Yeah,
we could probably go on for hours on this one.
This would be great.
Yeah,
it'd be great. But again, let's get back to the AAR. And Kerry's on the thread. That's right. Society.
Steve, I think, was chopping at the bits. He wanted to say one more thing.
No, go ahead.
No, good.
No, man, I'm good. I just want to point out, in what I was trying to convey, I certainly don't condone light excuses for not training or, general complaining. And I always caution people, be careful what you make.
Philosophy.
There's a balance in what you're going to do. And when you have to do, I guess here's the nutshell. When you're going to do really complex, difficult things, at least make room for what the soldier or warrior feels at the time or as a result of it. And if you can't do that, you probably shouldn't lead, right? Like if you can't make room for wow, that sucks, that's hard, I'm with you, it wouldn't matter to me, but I get that it matters to you. If you can't do that, right now, if somebody's missing a birthday, it's a birthday. If someone's missing the birth of your child, different ballgame. So I know you need to wrap up the show, so I'll pause there, but I hear we're aligned in what you're saying completely.
I'll end it with this as far as before I turn over to Dave for the actual closeout and the AR again is on Veteran Trash Talk. We started it 2 years ago. It's our 100th episode. We started this to share our own opinions, our own wisdom. Right? We wanted to share during COVID. We wanted to share we saw a problem like that we could immediately address, which was getting people on social media and talking. Right. So we were able to do that. Now that COVID's kind of over, people are getting out and hanging out more. It still doesn't change the mission. It just changes the way we handle it. But I said this to the lady in our good argument at Logan's Roadhouse on Skybo on Wednesday with JC. I said something about how it's actually okay to respect everybody's opinion. All right. It's actually okay. And it's actually okay by respecting someone's opinion, but not commenting because that opinion is fucking retarded, right? Like when somebody's retarded in something, you just gotta go, "Yuki," and like whatever.
Sometimes just let it go.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying. So JC brought.
Then you're making it about yourself.
Well, JC brought the nerd into it. He broke down the word philosophy, and he's like, phila is love. And then, the other part of the Latin thing is wisdom. So like you love wisdom. So when you get in a philosophical debate, which means that it's just your opinion, right? That you should love the other person's wisdom as much as your own, right? And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And what we talked about today, which was great, Steve, for having you on, was just the fact that being resilient, understanding your triggers, all the things that we do ourselves, and we want to get over it. But before Dave gives the last word, we have to end on my end a little bit, at least in a little bit of a sad note. I know Dave has met my friend Grant before. Nobody else has. He lost his dad on Thursday, and he was a Spec 5 during the Vietnam days, back when they had Spec 5, and he told me the greatest story about what Pogues will always tell you was he was too smart to be infantry. He said, I got drafted, I took a test, and they said, oh, you got to go to Intel, right? So this is back in the in the 60s. And when I got married, he came up to me and he shook my hand and he gave me $500. And I got married as an E5, and he goes, he's like, I remember what it was like to be an E5. I'm like, I'm sure this will help, and he shook my hand that way. And he was my coach in baseball. He was a good friend. So stick around after the show for about 5 seconds. We'll put a picture of him up, and it'll be good. But hearts with you, Grant. And Doug. Doug's a colonel at the Air Force Academy. So, hey, cheers to you guys. We're thinking about you. I love you. So, Dave, go ahead.
Hey, this was an amazing show. I really like this. We could definitely do this whole leadership and what our complaints are. And are we complaining too much of soldiers and retention and stuff? Let's wait until I'm completely retired, or you and Buddy can just do that show. But give me until June 1st, all right? I'll be out next year. But Steve, hey, phenomenal show. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and just some of the things you talked about, your own struggles as well. I know it probably saved somebody's life today, because that's, a lot of people are going to watch this and, they might be going through those struggles themselves. And they're like, oh, shit, this is a different outlook on things, So really appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on again. We'll stay connected. Any updates, anything that you're doing, just let us know. We'll post it on the page. We'll throw it out to our community. If you just tuned in, make sure you go to veterantrashtalk.com. Has all the links to our Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever else we're on. Go check out gruntworksclothing.com. We got some awesome merch. Today I'm wearing
Fuck around and find out, Bear.
Fuck around and find out, Bear. One of our awesome tees, all right? Sells like crazy. And then Nick's wearing the Quit Being a Triggered Pansy. And Buddy's wearing a Gruntworks shirt, too, because I saw the logo on his shoulder. Oh. Buddy, you got to say something about the shirt.
What? Let's all be.
What does it say, Buddy? Show it. You're all Americans.
Act like it.
It means having a.
Anyhow, thanks everybody for tuning in. This was an amazing episode, and we'll catch you guys next Saturday. Love y'all. Faceman VTT out.